but I've learned that simple green works really well, and it's really cheap. If you dilute it down just right, you don't want to use it straight concentrated, but if you dilute it down, any type of solvent like that, especially something that's biodegradable, I think breaks down the salt. Mist it down with a mist bottle. So I keep a bottle in my garage and I spray all my stuff down when I get home, and I let it sit for a couple minutes, and then I'll hose it off with the nozzle on spray, no pressure.
So I got a question as the baitcaster novice around here. So now I hear what we're saying with mist, and I assume the mist is for when you're using a baitcaster and you just kind of have like spray throughout the day that gets on your reel. But if you submerge a reel by accident in the salt, is that when you want to really try to push like with a lot more force with the water, or what do you do in that event? Just disassemble it and clean it out, or what do you do?
So for me, Steve, if I dunk a bait caster in the salt, I will take special care with looking and seeing how much water got in there, to almost to the point where I might take it apart.
Yeah.
A lot of the gear I have nowadays is saltwater, either saltwater proof or saltwater resistant type materials that it's built from. But that was not always the case in my fishing career. And I've had stuff that where if you didn't break it down and pretty much rinse every piece off, eventually it would start to corrode. Even I don't care how detailed you get, salt is just really hard to get rid of.
So
Yeah.
here's all right. So I see this question from Outdoors with Maryland. He said, "Wash it with a water hose." Shimano, depending what reel you got, I have talked to Shimano, and Shimano has said use a spray bottle to spray it off. I don't know if you missed it, and then you wipe it off. Now, that being said, in salt, distilled white vinegar mixed with water will break down the salt. This is what I use. And for the guys that have fish tanks out there, or saltwater tanks, that's what we use to wipe the glass off with, because it won't mess up the glass and it breaks down the salt.
It does.
So this perfectly mixed will help get all that corrosion off. Actually, really good cleaner too, especially for like reptiles and all that other stuff. But yeah.
Now, I mean, when I got back to Maryland, like growing up, I almost exclusively did freshwater fishing. Like my only saltwater fishing growing up was pretty much went out like a charter, like deep sea fishing or something like that. But even then, when I used to fish the Severn River all the time with my spinning gear. And you learn really quickly what happens to the gears inside of a fishing reel if they're not saltwater ready, and you don't take those things apart and clean them and lubricate them. Those things will rust out within a couple months. It was crazy. I mean, granted, those are kind of probably cheaper spinning reels, but I learned pretty quickly that I needed to do that maintenance, completely disassemble, completely clean out, lubricate, and then reassemble. If you're going to use non-saltwater ready gear, in even brackish water, it's a problem. It'll rot your stuff out quickly.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Even spinning gear, I've pretty much come. I'm very confident that as long as I don't dunk my reel in the water, that you don't have to take it apart. I think if you get home and you do a good night rinsing, even without a solution, sometimes just soap and water, especially if you're using equipment that is a little bit more expensive. And I hate to say that, but that's the truth, because
it is what it is.
It is. A lot of your freshwater spinning gear, the industry is not going to tell you that, but it's the same stuff that they're going to label an inshore little tag on it or a saltwater tag on it. The only difference may be there may be a few more seals around the bearings. Now, I've got a straight up, and then I'm going to tell the story and then I'll shut up about it, but I've got a straight up Tsunami 8,000 series surf reel and rod. And I've had some of my kids, and I've had, family events where I've let others use it, and they dunk it all the time. And that thing looks like it looks like a little tank. It's got so many different ways to seal it, and it's tightened. There's big bolts around it and all kinds of shit. It looks like it's going to be water resistant and not water, but waterproof. And I'll tell you, it's still will have corrosion around certain spots. And I've taken it apart, and even the stainless will get some corrosion pits on it inside the gears, things like that. So just because it's inshore and saltwater labeled does not necessarily mean anything, because salt will kill everything.
It's nasty.
Yeah, but if you take care of it after you get on the water, you ain't got to worry about any of that.
That's the key. Just a little bit of attention to detail goes a long way when it comes to.
So it's funny that you're talking about that. I mean, my camera is like crazy. So I bought a Cast King Royal Legend and a Sharky 3. Somebody was telling me about it. It's like, oh, it's Cast King. So when I was fishing down in South Carolina in the salt, I dunked it in the water intentionally and let it sit there for like 2 minutes, took it out, shook it off, and then what else I did? I just threw it around just to see how well the Cast King held up, and it held up.
Man.
So, I mean, I like to try different stuff to see what works, because I know people is like, oh, I don't want to spend $200-300 on a reel or $189. Or I know guys have been using 6-gill reels. I had a 6-gill reel. Matter of fact, I gave Steve my other 6-gill reel.
Sure did.
So he could use it. I'm not a fan of them, but the rods are pretty good. But yeah. So I like to try different stuff to see if it works. So somebody asked me a question, well, have you tried this before? Yeah. It's only $59.99. Can you afford that? Boom.
Yeah, I would give anybody the advice, if you're going to do any type of saltwater inshore fishing, it's just as long as you don't dunk that thing, you probably don't have to worry too much about it, as long as you give it a good rinsing at the end of the day. And a lot of that, and that just a little bit goes a long way, just getting that initial salt mist off of it. Because a lot of times what happens is the audience isn't always going to be like us three. We're fishing every day and using our equipment every day and handling it every day. So we're going to notice something different very quickly. But that guy that goes out on the salt and doesn't touch that rod and reel again for another 4 months, and it just sits in his garage in the humidity, he may go back and find that thing starting to corrode.
Hey, so this right here is Tommy Tech Outdoors Cast King bait feeder. He said it got salt on it and it got seized up. So I was going to take it apart and fix it, and I started working on it, and I'm getting there. It's getting back to normal, but I got to take it apart. I haven't taken it apart yet. I've been messing with it. So I'll be curious to see what happened. That's why I posted his comment. I took it from his house. I would rebuild it. But yeah. But that's
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got it to the point where I can turn it.
Hey. It's probably
So.
As long as it's a real line in and it has a drag, that thing will work.
Yeah. So as everybody can see, Steve is getting ready. He's prepping. He's actually prepping. I have to go to work tomorrow, so I can't prep to go anywhere. And I'm going to Virginia to go bowling, so I can't do any prepping. I can fake like I'm prepping. Reach something behind me.
It's time for me to get out, man. It's March and I haven't been out for snakehead yet. I feel like I'm just completely out of uniform, dude. So I'm taking a leave day, and tomorrow is going to be the day. I didn't want to go today, even though conditions were pretty good, because it was post frontal from the day before. But when I go out tomorrow, it's I think the conditions are going to be in my favor. Knock on wood. But we'll see how it goes, and y'all will see the pictures and the video and all that kind of stuff, man.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does it seem a little early for everyone catching snakeheads? Is that something different we should be kind of mentioning?
Well, let's talk about that, Steve, because me and Steve were talking about that earlier. So in March, towards the end, like February of last year, in March, I was catching snakehead, and I was using swim baits like this.
Okay. But I do think a large part of it is location dependent. Like, I would not be going out. This is just me. I mean, you do what you do. Like, if you're going out bow fishing, like guys have already like loaded decks with snakehead. The snakehead are out. They're just not feeding that heavily yet because their metabolism isn't that high because it's not warm enough yet. But you have some areas like the Eastern Shore, some of those shallow, dark bottom waters like you get around Blackwater, Dorchester County, where the fish and the water warms up faster, so the fish wake up faster. And I think that's a big part of it. Now, if somebody's out there and they're doing really well in an area that has deeper water access with current and everything else, let me know, because I'm always open to learn, and I'll go with you. But
Yeah.
I do think a lot of it is location dependent. I do think it is.
That's great information, and I've heard you say that before. I'm always looking for that pattern change, or is there something we missed in the past? Because I think all of this is still relatively new to most of us.
Yeah.
I'm always going to look for, what's going to be different this year than last.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer that the species is conditioning to, whether it be sounds of a trolling motor or light, beaming down on them.
Yeah.
I've heard a couple hints from some guys that do bowfish saying that they're seeing a little bit of a difference as the years go by, which will, if you think about it, reflection that we have just from us fishing during the day will cause that snake to react differently because they think it's a light. So those are just little key instances that I think, just naturally species are going to start to condition. So my point is that I'm always looking for the new thing in the year, and it just seemed to me a little early for some spots. So I was like, oh wow, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I think it's really location dependent, but it is. I mean, it's like I know to a degree, a lot of us are thought of as kind of like snakehead experts, at least to some degree, right? And I'll tell you all straight up, for anybody who thinks that, I'm not saying I don't know like the snakehead game. I know it pretty well, but it's still a really new game, man. It's like, I mean, think about how many decades we've spent fishing largemouth bass, like how long they've been a sport fish.
Yeah.
And then think about how many years that we've had really to target snakehead. There's a world of stuff that we don't know.
Absolutely.
Like we haven't even started managing snakehead as a fishery. So like all the scientific literature that you have for fisheries management on trout, on bass, on muskie, all those other species out there that we target, none of that exists for snakehead. No one's managing snakehead out there.
Right.
So I mean, there's so much information that we just don't know yet. Even the science it's still young. It really is still young, and I'm looking forward. I'm more than happy to be the tip of the spear and try to figure these fish out, because I do think there's just so much potential as a sport fish. But it's early, folks. The snakehead game is still early.
So I got a question, Steve, since you're prepping, and I know people are watching. What are you putting on now for the snakehead? Because I know that's why you're going.
Yeah. So far on the one bait caster, the SLX DC with the Mojo Bass, I have a number 3 MEPS on there. Because I mean, it's just really hard to go wrong with a number 3 MEPS early in the season. I mean, honestly, throughout the year, but as the grass grows up, I shy away from any kind of treble hooks because you catch so much crap on it. You want to go weedless. Aside from that, I may or may not have on a Lily Ninja Mouse, because you know how I feel about my Lily Ninja Mouse. Oh, and we have a gorgeous interloper here. How you doing, baby?
This is my whole bed.
It really is your whole bed, isn't it?
Hey, Adrian.
You want to join us?
I do not.
Right.
Is that mine?
Yes, it is your package, baby.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And
it's like, damn.
And I mean, aside from that, like I am gonna have 2 rods rigged up with hook and float, because it is early in the season. Yeah, I don't give a damn. I'm done. I'll throw some minnows. Y'all know me. I'll have 2 rods out with minnows, or 1 or 2, and then I'll fan cast, whether it be with a top water. See, he's got his wake bait ready.
This is my swim bait.
Oh, it's your swim bait. Okay, all right. I say last year you caught one on a wake bait. That was like
it was a 5-inch. It was a 5-inch swim bait.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually a hard jointed one. The 6 cents made it. I tried. It was always a bright orange one.
Yup.
Then I caught some on
I remember it.
Livingston.
I remember when you caught it, I was like, oh man, I gotta go.
Yeah.
But I mean, aside from that, I'm gonna be throwing probably the real All-American curlies, like the swim frogs, and the mega bass spark shad. And I'm going to, I bought some of those small spinners they have with the corkscrew, so you can actually screw them into the soft plastic, add a little bit of flash to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's going to be pretty much where I live tomorrow. But I'm going to have that topwater tied on because it's going to be my goal to hear that pop tomorrow. I haven't heard that pop in person in way too long. So I'm going to try my best to get one on top tomorrow.
Hey, so Tommy said,
Man, okay. I will give me a patch, and I'll put that stuff on my gear with pride.
So for me prepping, I was telling him it takes me forever in a day to prep. You know how we be going? I'm like, man, see, I'm tired. It takes me all day.
It really does, man.
And Jamie posted. He said, "You better keep that mini bucket secured tomorrow."
Yeah, I may or may not have a reputation for accidentally releasing all of my minnows at inopportune times. So it was funny too, because we were out there on the water, and our buddy Jamie, he lives on the Eastern Shore, and he has all these honey holes he goes to catch bait, to catch minnows, and he had caught a bunch of these just gorgeous giant minnows, like 4 to 5 inch thick bull minnows, these big mummy chogs. And he gave me the minnow bucket. Bad move, bad call. Because I was putting along in the kayak over on the Transquaking, and I went to reach down to get some more minnows, and the lid it was one of those cheap minnow buckets that has a lid to it that can actually come off.
Yeah, those suck.
The lid was off, and all those minnows were gone, man. They were gone. That was sad. I felt bad. I felt real bad.
Yeah, all that work for all those good minnows. God.
Like, if you ask Jamie about it, he's like, yeah, Steve came up to me with a sad puppy dog face on.
I was right there. I haven't pulled up. We was on the trans that day.
Yup.
And I was on the other. It was Jamie, and then Steve was in the. I was in the middle. Steve was in the middle. I was on the other side of him. He's like, bro, I lost the minnows. Now, so make sure when you guys are prepping and you decide to make a take minnows, make sure your minnow bucket is nice and you can secure it, and your line isn't frayed and all this other stuff. Because I have that minnow bucket in my garage. I refuse to give it back to him because he dropped minnows when we and him went fishing. He has like 2 brand new ones, so.
Go ahead and tell him it was 2 weeks later I did that crap again, man.
Yeah, 2 weeks later I heard about it, then he did it with me. So
I can't be trusted with minnows, man.
Also, you wasn't on, Steve. I just wanted to give. I was telling him I wanted to do this because my favorite. I was looking forward to Grant and Anastasia, the fishing channel today, and they rescheduled every Thursday. The fishing channel, which is Grant and Lady Chesapeake, Anastasia, they have people on and they talk. I look forward to it. A lot of people look forward to it.
Yeah, I've watched it too.
So they didn't go live. They rescheduled. So
technical difficulties beyond their control.
Yeah. So I figured I'd go live, talk. I mean, I'm not taking their presence, but I figured that Steve is prepping, it'd be a good time to go prep. So some people that fish use snap rings, like to switch out lures and stuff like that. You want to make sure that there you go, right there.
I'm putting it on right now. But I only use it with some lures, though. That's probably something we could dive into. But go ahead, bro. I'll jump in a minute.
I had one. I never had a problem with that one, but I had one that I had got from Japan, and it was like for like 90 pounds or something. If they turn one way and go, and if the snap ring turns, if the fish turns this way and moves, it'll unsnap.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody didn't know that. Now, the one that Steve had ain't going to do that. It's just going to bend it. I had bent it, but they won't get off.
Now, Rashawn, Nathan's story at the Trans sounds like your experience at the Trans, man. The Trans just doesn't treat some people well, man. It just doesn't.
All right, so the Trans, yeah. Just make sure when you go to the Trans, you prep well because, yeah, me and the Trans don't get along too well. That's all I got to say. I even threw my rod in the water when I was casting.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I remember that, dude. It's like every time we go to the Trans, I feel like we go there and you won't catch much, hardly anything at all until the very end of the day. And then you redeem yourself with the catch. I feel like it's happened twice now, man.
Yeah.
$20 though. You got to redeem yourself. So if you can get in there, that's good.
I gotta go back. But back to you said I wanted to see. I seen Anastasia commenting on my live on my page. But make sure you guys, we're not going. Me and Joe and maybe some other people have decided to do lives on Tuesday if we're not fishing. The Thursday is the fishing channel's day. We will not go live on a day because I like watching the video. I'm at their live stream. It's something to do because
Good plan.
it's got all these different people on there and they got people coming up. So, yeah.
So here, now I don't always use these kind of quick swap swivels. Or actually, let me get you the actual. I want to get you the actual name of these, unless one of y'all know it off the top of your head.
Brandon said tactical angler clips. That's what he called it.
Yep. Yeah, tactical clips. Yeah, and the heavy duty ones are the only ones that I'll roll with for snakehead. Now, I've caught some big snakehead on these things. I haven't had any issues, but I've heard from other guys who were, I don't know if it's the exact same kind they were using. It probably wasn't. But I do know guys who have had those things fail and lose really big fish. But is it convenient to swap it out? Yeah. Like you can save a lot of time retying if you use those things. But one thing I generally won't use these with is my topwater frogs, because I don't like anything that's going to affect the buoyancy of my frogs. Like if it's going to change the angle it sits in the water, I don't like that.
I have used it.
But subsurface, I'll use it.
I have used it on frogs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I've used it on frogs just because I'm lazy and I want to swap frogs out. But I have lost fish. I lost a redfish on it. On a frog. I lost my honker in South Carolina on the redfish. And I lost a pretty big snakehead on it. So
now I think Matthew right there is asking about spring lock hooks. That's exactly what I'm using right now. Now, generally speaking, I do like them. That's oftentimes what I will roll with. I guess the one exception is going to be your Z-Man lures. You can do it, but it's a real pain to try to thread a corkscrew into a Z-Man, because that's one downside of the durability of a Z-Man, is that you really got to work at getting a corkscrew into it.
All right, so here's the little tip for you guys. I thought I had one here, but if you're putting a Z-Man on, you put a hook, stick your hook where centered into the Z-Man minnow, and then screw it in because it has something to go into. It helps get it started. That's how I do mine.
Okay, yeah. I see what you're saying. Like create you're essentially almost creating like a pilot hole. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I thought I had some. I had some down here somewhere.
Yeah, if you even just stick the point of a hook in that area that you're about to screw into and just start a pilot hole, that's actually the way I do it.
Gotcha.
Because it's a pain in the ass to get in that Elastec. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Hey, Blair, I'm looking at midnight. My daughter's cat's in my room, and my dog is still roaming the house, and those two things are like oil and water. So I got to make sure she gathers her cat. But here is, I'm trying to hold this in such a way that y'all can see well what I'm about to screw into this Mega Bass Spark Shad. But adding a little bit of flash to your soft plastic, especially in off-color or tannic water, snakehead like flash, man. Like if you can have some extra flash on your lure, I highly recommend it.
So Jesse said he uses his Bing. Well, Tommy said grip pin works great from Z-Man. The grip pin works. And
I haven't even seen what those are yet. Leave it to Tommy Tech, man. Tommy Tech.
Well, I have some.
Yeah, grip pin is just going to be. It's a screw lock, but it has a center needle.
Yeah.
So that needle in the center of the screw lock, the actual coil, actually acts as that pilot hole drilling mechanism.
I thought I had some around here, man. I got so much shit everywhere.
That needle is for us to keep it straight, but it goes in a lot easier on Elastec. I forget who make that's. Isn't that a shit? I gotta look now.
So Jesse said he used the Bangkok hooker for switching frogs. I kind of use it, but then I don't be feel like tying it. So
you got to use that Bangkok hooker knot a lot to get really good at tying it quickly. I mean, you can't beat it. I don't think you can beat it, but that's something I really haven't got into yet, is tying that Bangkok hook or not. But
So that's what I was mentioned. I'm glad he mentioned that, because that was going to be my question for those of you that are using. If you're tying directly to braid and using the clip, the one good thing about the Bangkok hooker knot is you can untwist it, undo your lure, and put on another one very quickly without retie it, because it ultimately acts like a Palomar knot. You're kind of feeding it through itself and then pull it tight. You can actually undo it and feed the lure back out and put another one on. So it's interesting. You might want to look at it. I can't say that I use a clip anymore. I used to use them, but when I went to tying directly to braid, if I tie anything directly to braid for snakehead, it's usually going to be with that knot. So I don't have to use it anymore.
Yeah, I don't even wanting to tie it. So I just tie it, Palomar.
I need to learn. I haven't used Bangkok hooker yet.
It's really the only problem with it is it uses a lot of your tagline at the end of your. Not a big deal, but I'm kind of picky when it comes to knots on how much line it takes me to use.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're tying directly to braid, it doesn't matter. But it does take a lot of line to kind of get all that twisting and stuff to go on. It takes a good almost I'd say 2 feet of your line.
But
that twisted up.
But the hack to that is just put some little bit of extra line on your reel, that because you can only put but so much line on there, so you would have to do it like that.
But because you don't have to cut it, it's never going to really go bad.
All right, close my door, please.
Thank you, son. It's a pretty good knot. It really.
As a snakehead fisherman, I feel like it's my duty to learn this knot and stop playing around.
It works good for that, and it works good for toothy fish and salt too, because it makes it thicker.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking when Angel was saying it, because I know with Angel fishing down there for bullseye, he's got to deal with those. I don't know if it's rocky or concrete ledges in those canals. And if a fish tries to dive down in there, I could see it would probably definitely help to have more toughness on that length of line that's immediately above your hook. So I could definitely see why he's probably using it down there.
Well, they also the fact that they'll bite right through your braid.
The bullseye will?
Yeah.
Are their teeth that much different than the northern?
They're just aggressive, man. I don't know what it is. I had it happen to me.
Hard time finding a good knot for braid. I mean, I've used the Palomar for a long time now with braid, and I mean, you can see the results by the photos and the videos, dude. Like, I really haven't had any issues. And Palomar, unless you're working with trebles, is a really easy knot to tie.
Yeah, unless your lure's real long.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah. Without other than that, it's a really easy lure to tie, really quick.
Yeah, it gives you extra. Yeah,
but I mean, twist lock's an owner lock type of hook, and the screw lock. I know you can't see it, but it does have like a little needle that kind of starts you going with the screw.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Pilot maker for you.
Yep.
Yeah, those are sweet hooks. Sweet hooks.
Yeah, I mean. So for me, when I'm fishing, and I'm gonna tell you the reels that go on when I'm prepping my frog rods, I'm throwing 50, 65 pound braid, because I'm trying to throw into everything. And I've the stuff that we've been in, Steve, throwing over trees and stuff like that. That thicker braid just goes through it. So I'd be like, man, I don't need a Bangkok hook or knot. That's why it's gonna work.
Because I'll put it to you all this way: like, if you fish the Eastern Shore, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of flooded shoreline on the Eastern Shore, and you talk about bushes and trees and all this other crap over there. And there'll be days where throwing on the edge of it is enough, and the snakehead are there, and it's no problem. That's all you got to do. But on the days where they're up in that stuff, if you have the gear and the accuracy to be able to throw back into it with those topwater frogs or weedless swim baits, whatever it is, you might be the only person on the water catching fish. So like there's definitely an application for it. I've been there. I've done it many a time. Like the same thing goes when the sun is real high in the sky. It seems like a snakehead either go deep into cover or they'll go deep into water, or or what passes for deep water on the eastern shore. You don't have too much deep water out there in a lot of those Dorchester waters. But having that really strong abrasion resistant line, that comes in handy, dude. That comes in real handy.
Real smart.
Yeah.
So I see somebody on my Facebook in the chat. He said he's Brandon Smelts. He uses 30-pound braid for bullseye. He said he never had a problem, and I see that not having a problem too.
Mhm.
But so the stories I've seen, the guys that catch no big snakehead, I'm not saying he don't catch big snakehead down in Florida, throwing in the trees, like places those where the big fish are at that you don't want to throw, and you got to take that chance to go in there. And that's why I like to use like for example, if you're fishing the wood structure in your kayak or in your boat, you're not throwing 100-something yards out in the open, so it's not like you could get away with throwing that heavy stuff because it's not going far, and then you won't have a problem pulling them out. You might pull a tree. I'll pull big snapping I'll pull trees and big snapping turtles out on a frog. You know what I mean? So it's all preference, but I just prefer if I'm fishing like heavy stuff and I'm trying to throw into a tree and that get caught over a limb, I don't have to worry about the limb trying to bring it back over, messing up my braid because it's that durable. And I use for that particular purpose, I use X5 because it's thicker and is more abrasion resistant than an X9. Even though the X9 is strong, that's what I use. That's what's on my reels. Now,
go ahead, dude. My bad.
No, I was just saying for now, and then for longer stuff out open water or something like that, I'll throw the X9 or weeds and grass and stuff like that because the break strength is awesome. So, yeah, go ahead.
Now, me personally, I used to use Power Pro, Suffix Braid, and then I really started fishing with Rashawn and a lot of the other guys on the team because honestly, like I've never been a gearhead when it comes to fishing gear. I really haven't been. Like I would get by with the minimum that I can buying even a mid-range or even low to mid-range, reel and rod setup, and it'll get the job done for you most of the time.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, but that being said, I've started using X9 pretty much last year, and I'm in the process of switching up all of my rigs to X9, and then I'll probably have one rig where I follow shortly after Rashawn that I'll have for the X5, for the really, really thick stuff. But it's a hell of a line. It's like Rashawn and I were out casting out back my house tonight, tuning in my bait casters. And the way it comes off the reel is just incredible.
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 Fucking incredible.
Language, God.
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty good. Now I want to talk about this too with some other prep, not just snakehead.
Mm-hmm.
Another line that's good to have on your reel that I like is the Nanofill. Berkeley makes this Nanofill line, and that thing is like braid, but it's like mono. It can only go in spinning. I don't even know how to explain it. It casts a mile.
I remember you telling me about it.
But it works really good for jigging because it flies down. They don't go any more than 17 pounds, but it's super light.
Now, when you say jigging, you talking about snap jigging, or what are you talking about?
Jigging in general. I mean, I wouldn't use it. It's not super abrasive, so I wouldn't use it near structure. But if you're like out in the boat and you're jigging for rockfish or something like that,
yeah,
it would work. I mean, it's probably thinner than 10-pound braid. I know a lot of people use 10-pound braid out there. So
probably known for its casting distance, but yet it still has the strength.
Yeah, braid.
Yeah. Now, what do you consider to be the best areas, or I guess fish you're chasing, or the best areas that you're going to apply this Nanofill at? So
I was fishing with Kevin, and we were at Key Wallace, and I had it on bottom, and I didn't have any problem with it because there's a lot of stuff in Key Wallace. You got weights and rocks and wood and people. I mean, I never had any problem. So
okay,
but I talked to Berkeley directly, and it was like it's made for casting open water type stuff, and I've used it for snakehead on a bobber before. Before I said, man, I'm not using minnows anymore, but because I like how light it is, but it's really light.
Now
So.
you say you're not going to use minnows, but once we're out there fishing the monster snakehead tournament from anglers, if I'm only one catching because I'm using minnows, I bet you put a minnow on.
Yeah. So Brandon Smelt says, you guys ever use Sunline fluorocarbon sniper? I have. I actually have it.
I've used Sunline. Yeah.
I have that on one of my Corrados. I wanted to try it out, but I'm a Berkeley guy, so I just like Berkeley line. I've always been that way. They haven't did me wrong. No, I've tried a lot of stuff.
As far as fluoro goes, I think Sunline's a fluoro, but I really like Sunline. I mean, it's not cheap. Don't get me wrong. You can get a lot more economical line, but I've really enjoyed using the Sunline. Like I've really liked it. I used it mostly for smallmouth fishing. I did do some striper fishing with it as well. But yeah, like the Sunline, the P line, I like all those. They've done really well for me.
Yeah. So what we didn't touch on when we were talking, we got a lot of people watching. I mean, decent amount. The rod.
Ooh, okay.
We really didn't talk about rod. So for me, I have frogged with in thick, heavy grass. I have frogged with a medium rod before. But I prefer medium heavy and extra heavy.
Yup. I'm with you. I mean, like growing up, like, as the name Cambo Trout implies, I did a lot of trout fishing growing up here in Maryland, and a lot of ultralight fishing in general, like crappie, perch. And I got into bass too, but I was never like a jig spinnerbait fisherman where you start throwing like the heavier gear. I never was that guy. It was really snakehead as much as anything else that got me into that kind of heavier side of the game. But now that I'm there and, I'm aiming for these 10, 15 or bigger pound snakehead, medium heavy is my minimum, because I've said this before, you probably heard me, is that when you can catch a snakehead up to about probably 8 or 9, maybe even 10 pounds, and you feel like you're in control. When you get into that like 13, 14, 15 pound class snakehead, you find out really quickly who's in control. And it, like, a lot of times it's not you. It's a whole different experience when you're dealing with a fish in that size class. So like your medium heavy will get you by. And I've caught, 12, 13, 14, 15 pound snakehead on medium heavy. But if I can have a little bit more on my side, because that's what you're doing. Like when you're looking at all this different gear, and, as someone who fishes on a budget, I understand you got to make choices when it comes to the gear that you buy. But the difference that the higher end gear makes is like, it's a percentage game. Like there's the fish is on one side of the scale and you're on the other. And that little bit better gear might tip that scale a little bit more in your favor. And that's where it really comes in my opinion. That's where the difference is really made when you're dealing with the higher end gear, is that in those kind of marginal situations where it's kind of an even match, it can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I'll add that, like, if you're gonna, since it was like a segue from thickness,
that was hard to find.
To
thank you, baby. You did great.
How heavy a rod to use. I'll tell you that your line and your rod are really
so low?
Contingent on the cover that you're fishing in, so all that structure. But it's also the type of lure you're using, what kind of hook set you have to have, because
that's a good point.
With those big, thick fangs,
I just learned that the zeros are called aughts.
You almost need to have at least a medium rod to set that type of hook. If you're throwing a single swim bait hook, you can get away with a lot of open water swimming that swim bait on a medium rod.
Yep.
But depending on that, some of those big buzz baits we're throwing,
Ooh, I broke it.
You probably want a medium heavy rod.
No, that's a great point, dude, because the single hook applications, you don't need quite as much power. When you have those nice big stout hooks on those double hooks for that frog fishing, And again, like frog fishing is something I never did, like in any like serious way until snakehead, because I knew it felt terrible. Like when I was using like kind of like the slow action or medium or light action or light strength rods, and I tried to throw those frogs, it felt terrible because I'm like I can already feel like I'm not going to be able to set the hook effectively on this. It just doesn't feel right. Like you definitely need it for that application. You really do.
You do. Yeah, and the other thing that gets confusing with most anglers when it comes to rod selection, so that's one way to look at it is the type of lure that you have. The weight of the lure so you can cast it is the other spectrum of what kind of rod. A lot of times when we're talking snakehead fishing, that's not necessarily the case, because if you have a big heavy, you've got a 7.3 heavy action rod, you're trying to throw a frog really far, and you've got enough muscle in that rod to hook that fish with that type of lure. But if you're and you know that the lighter the lure, the harder it is to cast, especially from a bait caster, you're going to parabolic action to where it whips it. So there is a balance that anglers have to figure out kind of on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Not all rods are created equal. I don't care what it says. But to get to know what medium fast to moderate fast means, if you have enough, you have the resources or you have the exposure to those different types of rods, and you throw some lures on it, there's a difference.
Big time.
All right, so for one of when I started, well, I was always frog, but what rod I liked the most that I had liked that you can buy that's not custom is the St. Croix Swim Frog, because it's a medium heavy, extra fast. It's designed for frog fishing only.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really quick. So I mean, if you don't pause, man, you're gonna miss fish. To be honest, you don't give them the time. But right here, this is Steve. I know Steve is probably working on his Caddy Lin rod, right? That's what you're doing right now.
Oh, actually, that one's tied up. I'll show it to y'all in a second,
right.
and I'll get some close-ups of it tomorrow on video.
So
but right now, I'm tying up my last live bait rod is what I'm tying up right now.
You mean your minnow rod? Okay. So this is one of my setups. This is my JLS Custom Rod. I actually have a Calcutta Conquest DC on here, the 101.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to tell you how much it costs. They're going to be like, oh, yeah. But this is the 101, and this is my medium heavy fast. It's actually supposed to be an inshore rod. Really light, got carbon fiber. I mean, for frog fishing, I'm not going to buy a rod from Walmart.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be honest with you. If you really want a rod, spend the money. You can get a decent rod from like $80. You can get one from Dick's for that amount. You could use a favorite rod. They got the frog rod. Any rod that's designed for frog and you can use for snakehead. I'm not going to tell you how to go out there and spend $200-$300 for a rod if you don't want to spend the money, if you don't have it, especially right now with gas prices. I know me and Joe were talking about that the other night. If you don't have it, don't push the issue. Just get something that you can use.
Absolutely.
And if it breaks, take it back to Walmart and get another one.
Yeah,
they'll take it back. Just keep the receipt.
Yeah, that's definitely every once in a while nowadays, but a lot of influencers now, even on social media, that have sponsors with certain gear. They're really tuned into that, because I think it's true that you don't have to spend the money to get that type of gear. It like Steve mentioned, will it make you a little bit more efficient, maybe a little bit more technical with certain lures or techniques you're trying to do? Absolutely, it will. But as far as, does that fish care what that name said? And does shit, I'm gonna tell you that right now. I've caught
All right, well, check this out.
Zebco.
All right, check this out. So I'm gonna change this a little bit, and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. All right, so you can see all these rods behind me. This right here, I got this. If you want a decent rod that saves some money for $100, Okuma makes a snakehead only rod. I bought this from Anglers for $99.99. Or you can go on the Okuma website and get it. I have two of them behind me. I thought about giving one away in a raffle. I'm up in the air yet. I don't know, because I want to try. One's a 1 ounce frog, and the other one is a 3/4 ounce frog. But I don't know if you can really see it. It says Snakehead Junkie, and then this is 7.3 medium heavy, and it throws up 1/4 ounce to an ounce, and the other one is the same but with 3/4 ounce. So if you want a decent rod, this is not bad at all. So you guys that just want to fish for snakehead, I mean, you could use all bass stuff too. There ain't no difference.
Yeah.
But the other part is you just want to make sure your gear is good to go, because your bass gear lasts longer because they don't have teeth.
Yeah, and they don't death roll either.
They don't death roll. They don't nothing. So that's why frogs last so long with bass. And now snakehead, you need that nice frog that's gonna be durable. I mean,
I got this out there. We talked about this a couple of Legion meetings ago about maybe I don't know where we all talked about it at some point. I don't think it was to the public, but so snakehead fishing with bass gear, especially when it comes to bait casters. So bait casters are very integral, small gears inside. If you've ever opened it up, you can see how precise a lot of those gears are compared to a spinning. If you've ever opened, they're pretty different. And when it comes to bass gear, when a company makes a bait caster and it's got, let's say, 12 pounds of drag, that company knows that person that bait caster is probably never going to catch a bass over 4 pounds. And if they do catch a bass over 4 pounds, it's only going to be a couple times, and maybe once in its lifetime, that reel's lifetime, will it ever go over 6 pounds. One time.
Yep.
We buy these rods, and guys that we know, community, we're fishing a couple times a week and catching several 10 to 13 pound fish with that bag tightened all and just winching away. So when your reel starts to sing and make crazy noises after the third or fourth time you catch one of those big ass fish, I don't care what company or who made it. It's just what made to do that. They told you that they said that was going to do, because they did not expect you to catch bass that big. They especially didn't expect you to catch snakehead. So I don't know if that made any sense, but that's the kind of I got some very expensive Daiwa reels that they last about a season when I'm snakehead fishing, just because of the winching that I'm doing and the work that I'm putting them through.
You know what's really good? I'm gonna hold. You said Daiwa, so I have the Daiwa Ryoga. If you know what that is, Joe. Mm-hmm. But this is the Slipworks version. So you already know this one. This one was, yeah. But it was built. It's built for swim bait. It's very well. They retuned it and everything.
Yeah.
So I know people is like, oh yeah, man, we can catch fish on whatever, and blah blah blah. I get it. We cool. I understand that. But if you don't take care of your gear, thinking that it's going to hold up after a while, it's going to fail on you.
That's a great part of it too. Especially snakehead fishermen, we're usually in the muddiest and thinnest of water with a lot of grit in the water that you don't really feel it, but it is. And that water and that grit's getting in your reel. It's gonna.
So, this right here is I tested this out. This is the Cast King Royal Legend 200 size.
Mm-hmm.
A very heavy duty reel, especially with the Luz Super Duty reel is heavy duty too.
Yeah,
I mean it works if you're fishing the muck and stuff like that. I mean,
so I don't have any Luz gear anymore. I've retired all my Luz gear, but I was a big Luz guy for many years, and I'm a big fan of them, especially for snakehead fishing because they're affordable, and I believe Luz has the kind of the market space or the shelf space in all the big boxes. That's actually a quality fishing reel that can withstand a lot of the stuff we're doing. It takes a beating and it keeps on ticking, one of those kind of type of things. But it's still going to fall in that category after a couple years of, if you're catching big snakeheads over and over again, it's going to still fall in that same category of wear out. But Lew's is in my opinion kind of the workhorse of the industry when it comes to affordable fishing gear.
So our team member Orange22 said, if your gear isn't covered in muck when you get home, was it really a snakehead trip?
Man, there's been days out in Blackwater when you're poling through that and I mean, the bottom in Blackwater, if you ever get out and try to stand in it, you're going to sink down at least 3 feet is how soft that bottom is. It's one reason snakehead do so well out there. But there's been days I'm trying to get back into the skinniest water I can, and I'm just like pushing my kayak. My muscles are screaming like it's like I'm going through all this crap, and all of a sudden, you make one bad stroke, and all that mud and muck is like, and like either that or like dead and dying pad feels, the same kind of crap there. It's got in my mouth before, man. It's freaking disgusting.
Yes, you guys. So
it's worth it, but it's disgusting.
Because a few months back in the summer, we were talking about you Maryland guys, and because it's muddy here too, but maybe not that muddy. And what was funny was when we all started doing tournament fishing, and you all start looking at each other's photos, right? And the board's laid down on the bottom of your deck of your kayak, and the fish is laying out. And I was like, damn, like all these Maryland dudes, like they're fishing in like mud holes. There's mud on your fucking kayaks. I was like, taking their shit out.
Sometimes you come out of there just absolute, and I mean, a lot of times in the summer, it just bakes it onto your kayak and all your gear too. All that mud just bakes it on there. You come out smelling great, man.
That's fantastic.
It's still on Steve's kayak. I don't know about mine. Hey, I clean my kayak. I clean mine.
That's why I got the camo kayak, man. So
he got the
you can't tell.
Yeah, so when he's in the water, he just blends in. It's like, oh, it's a tree.
Yep. I'm one with the environment, man.
Hey, but you know what we didn't talk? But you know something that we didn't talk about that was good prep. Your vehicle.
Oh, I got some good ones for that.
Who wants to lead that one off? Go ahead. I'll weigh in. Go ahead.
I have a vehicle thing, but what I was thinking when we were talking about what we want to talk about prep, it was the obvious stuff, right? That's something I think all of us are just anxious to get out there the next day, and we're probably messing with gear we don't even need to mess with. Just like Steve's doing right now. He's probably messing with shit that was already tied on. It was already ready to go, but he redid it anyway, right? Mm-hmm. My thing is that don't forget like the most basic stuff, because that's what I forget, and it might be because I'm getting old. From your paddle. Who's forgot their paddle got all the way out to the landing?
I keep an extra paddle in my car. Like I straight up do.
Especially for early season when you haven't been doing it over and over again every weekend. Right now is the time to start thinking about those things, because you're out of rhythm. Your paddle, the basic stuff, your pedals maybe. I don't know. I've forgotten.
How about your seat?
Your seat. It's like dude, like the first thing I'll say is prep the night before. Like you might be tired, but prep the night before. And by prep, I mean load the car the night before. That way, when you wake up in the morning, you're not scrambling for anything. Like, especially if you oversleep or something stupid happens, because that's when you're really going to make mistakes. So have everything packed the night before.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I will load up my car. I check everything and make sure it's there. I come out the next day. I check and make sure everything's there. I drive 2 blocks away and something will ring in my head. And I'm like, okay, I pull over, turn on my flashers, and I check my car and make sure everything is there.
Yeah.
Because when you're making those trips, those like 30, 40 to like an hour or 2 or 3 hour trip to get to the fishing grounds, and you get there and you're missing something crucial.
Yeah. Yeah. Or those things that you can probably still fish, but it was just enough to bother you the rest of the day and just mentally mess with you. Like, damn, I wish I had that, because I knew to bring it. I forgot it, but now I'm here. I can't go back and get it, but I can still fish. And you probably could still catch fish and have a good time, but it's still going to be just fucking with you.
Hey, Steve, what about turkeys?
Watch out for them, man. You never know when they're going to come out, bro. You might have to dodge one and then end up in a ditch down in Dorchester County, and thankfully the people of Dorchester are generous souls, man. And they'll come by and they'll help tow you or your Xterra out of the ditch. But Those turkeys are ornery, man. They just, I think they're in cahoots with the snakehead. They don't want me to get to the snakehead, man. It's some dark alliance there.
So I'm gonna tell you that I almost forgot my seat one day. I know Kevin came to my house and he forgot his seat. He had to go all the way back home.
Yup.
Now, if you're social media and want a camera, like and cameras and stuff, don't do what I did. I left. I forgot a battery or something.
Yeah.
I forgot a battery. I forgot a memory card.
I'll forget the pole for my 360 Max. Like your bow mounted or like a mounted camera on your actual kayak. I've forgotten that damn pole. I don't know how many times, and I'm like, well, damn it. And I mean, I still have my head mount, but
those are those little things that I'm talking about that really mess with a person like me. I don't know why. I let that stuff get to me because I can still film or I can still do whatever.
Yep.
But just forgetting that one thing that I knew I shouldn't have forgot, or I don't know. I pride myself on like not making any mistakes. So when you do, you're just like, damn it.
You know what?
It was with me my whole fishing trip. And
I got a video that we're gonna have to do. A prep video.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you some things that you need to have. You need to make sure that you have money. You need to make sure you have a flashlight. You need to make sure you have bug spray. You need to bug spray.
I got a story for bug spray. Remind me.
Sunblock. And don't ever go out in water on a sunny day without some kind of glasses, because you're gonna hate life.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
sunglasses. Man,
sunglasses. Oof. If I forget my polarized lenses, I'll be in a bad mood. I'll be in a bad mood.
It was a terrible day of fishing. I caught fish. I was miserable the whole time.
Was it like a bad mood when you was in Virginia and everybody was catching snakehead and you was just like,
I don't know what you're talking about. This smile stays on, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, were you like the butch face?
I hate now I got to tell two stories. So the first story about bug spray. It's like for the longest time, people had told me about the mosquitoes down at Blackwater and how bad they were. And honestly, like for the first year or so, year and a half, I was fishing in Blackwater. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. And I was fishing, like Little Blackwater River. I was fishing Blackwater proper. I was fishing the Chickamaucomico. The first time I ever went, I think it was probably the lower Chickamaucomico, like the really lower part. I went out there and it's like, I forgot my bug spray and it was just like, it was audible. You can hear just like the swarms of mosquitoes closing in on you. And it was so bad, I was going to leave after about an hour. The only thing that saved me was that Matt Fletcher and his buddy were down there. I ran into him on the water. I'm like, dude, I hate to ask this, man. You got any bug spray, bro? Like if it weren't for them, I would have left. And I mean, I love fishing. And those mosquitoes were that bad. Like I couldn't stand.
Doesn't like mosquitoes.
No,
I could tell you that.
It's so annoying. It's like you're trying to focus and fish. It's like getting eaten alive. And it's like every time I moved, you would just see you could see it in the camera. You see like the rising wave of mosquitoes when I moved, and then I would stop moving and they would settle back onto me. But it was, down in Virginia, we were down there with Chad Hoover filming. It was like this big thing. I was like, oh, we're going fishing with Chad Hoover, man. We're going to go chase snakehead. I couldn't land a snakehead for like the first 5 hours we were out there. And other dudes were catching. And I got a hit here and there, and they would miss it completely. When I have a bad day fishing, like a truly bad day fishing, it's like y'all don't see like my angry face a lot because I don't have a reason to wear it a lot. But when it happens,
yeah, they were disrespecting the Jesus that day. What's going on?
I'm telling you, I was like, you got to be kidding me! Like the one time that I'm gonna skunk out is the time I go fishing and filming with Chad Hoover, and I was the one guy they had mic'd up, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me! And luckily, like Tommy helped me out. He gave me one of his blade wakers, and once I had a blade waker, I turned it around like 11:30, round towards noon. I turned it around, but dude. for those first 5 hours, I was sweating it. I was like, snakehead Jesus, my ass. Like, I'm down here fishing with Chad Hoover, and I can't land a fish to save my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I caught mine that day. One of them on that day. I actually caught all my fish on the pink blade waker.
Yeah,
that day.
Blade Baker was killing it that day.
I throw that in the wood, in the weeds and thick everything. People are like, why are you throwing that chatter? But trust me, that Teckle Wave Blaker is no joke.
Yeah.
So
that's a hell of a lure. I got one tied on right now for tomorrow. It's a hell of a lure.
Right? Was that in April?
That was was that in May, Rashawn, you think? I feel like it was May.
Probably was.
Yeah, I feel it was May down at where did we launch from? I can't think of the name right now.
Secret place.
Yo, secret?
Yeah, secret place.
All right, we'll leave it secret.
We'll leave it. We don't tell spots. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I know where that spot you guys are at, and it ain't no secret. So
no. Yeah, it ain't no secret. But
that spot you guys fish from, that place like puts Stafford County on the map.
Yup.
Shoot,
now I won't leave it alone.
Yeah.
I saw some comments on there about stuff people forgot. And I saw grippers. I saw pliers.
Oh yeah. So let me tell you a story.
With you,
I was fishing.
You can still survive on the water and get your day done. Man, stuff drives me nuts if I forget it. Don't.
I use sticks.
Never forget your life vest.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So that's a rule if you're fishing the KBF tournament. You cannot fish without your life preserver. You can't. I don't think you can take it off, right, Joe? Steve walks around with this in the mall, thinking he's gonna float away. If y'all didn't know,
safety first, man.
Yes, he's like, yeah, man, I'm just practicing. So,
here I'll tell you guys until I started fishing tournaments where it was mandatory to wear one, I never wore one. To be honest with you, and my wife loves that these tournaments make me wear one. And now that I've been wearing one for, I think, 4 years now, I can't live without it. Like, I have to have it. Like, it has stuff that I love the pockets. I love the feeling of it being on me. If I don't have it on me, it's kind of like a seatbelt now, right? It's just automatic. So, yeah.
Oh.
I have to wear it now.
Yeah. So, I know what Southern Maryland Mike is talking about. He's talking about Steve's baby back rib chips from Royal Farms, ain't it? That's right.
Yeah. The Royal Farms, like, so for the longest time, probably up until about 2 or 3 years ago, I would go out on the water, without snacks, without anything, because like my bodily functions when I'm on the water, except for having, the obvious call of nature. Aside from that, when it comes to hunger or thirst, I get so laser focused on fishing and catching fish that I don't notice I'm hungry. I don't notice I'm thirsty, and I'm just in it.
Yep, been there. Yeah.
But since maybe it's because maybe part of it's because I'm getting older, but I think the other part of it is getting into the tournament game where it's a little bit more high stakes and like you're really kind of tense. When you're having a bad day or a slow bite, those snacks are crucial, man. That's a huge morale boost. Like I can't say enough or recommend it enough. When you're out there, take some snacks, man. Like you're having a bad time, take a break, sit back, observe your environment, eat some snacks, and then get back into it. But if I had to recommend some snacks, the Royal Farms crab chips, baby back rib chips, and I usually have to have at least one kind of sour candy on me, whether it's like, sour trolley worms or something like that. I got my salty, I got my sweet and sour, and I got my water, and I'm good to go.
So did you say baby back ribs?
Yeah, it's Royal Farms. I think the brand name is Marketplace. Baby back rib chips. Now, there's a caveat here.
Taste like baby back ribs?
They taste delicious. They are. Rashawn knows. I've shared it with him. Now, you might get a bag. If you get a bag that doesn't have a lot of good seasoning in it, which does happen, they ain't all that great. But if you get one that's like has a good amount of seasoning in it,
right,
boy, they are tasty, man. Yeah, Jared knows. Jared fishes with me all the time. Like those sour gummies have gotten me through some tough times in my life, man.
So I'm gonna lead into something for prep off of that. All right, so I know you're not Snakehead Jesus. He just works off the solar power, so that's why he doesn't need anything. But you would want a snack You would want snacks to give
Yup.
you energy throughout the day, and you would want some kind of water because if something happens and you got stranded, you want to make sure you can until they come get you. You had some kind of water
Yeah.
or some kind of kit in general. If you're fishing somewhere and you get stuck, you can start a fire and boil water. I'm just saying this is just not saying it's going to happen in certain areas, but
Yeah.
that to have. You also like if you're fishing in your prep and you're fishing cold water, you want to
Yeah.
make sure that you have your life vest and you have a dry suit. That's I mean you don't want to go into that shock when you after a while because it's what you don't
Yeah,
want that.
it's a shame that dry suits are so pricey, but if you're talking about fishing like really cold water, especially on big water, you should have one, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm not gonna put any caveat on that. You should have one.
And you should
Yeah.
know how to swim too.
Well, yeah, that too. But
Don't
like, circling back around to Joe's point, when it comes to like life vests, I never wore one, and again, it's something I didn't do till later in life. Maybe it's because I got a family now, and I got wife and kids who rely on me and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You're young, invincible, single, like
Yep.
you do what you do crazy stuff. It is what it is. But you get a little bit older, a little bit wiser. You have to you don't think about wearing a life vest as being useful under perfect conditions where like you jump in the water. Like it's no problem. I'm a great swimmer. That's not what it's for.
Nope.
Like you're gonna go in the water. You're gonna have clothes on. You're gonna have shoes on. And if you go in the drink, it's probably an accident. It's not something you intended to do.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a hook in you, or maybe like you fall out, you hit your head, or your arms hurt, your legs hurt, your foot hurt. You're not wearing that life vest for the day where you're in perfect health and you have all your faculties. You're wearing that life vest for the times when you go in the drink because something went terribly wrong. That's why you wear a life vest. It's not a critique of your swimming capability. It's a safety measure for when things go wrong.
Yeah. 100%. 100% agree. And you're right, especially you younger dudes out there, because like Steve said, I was the same way. I lived in California for 10 years, and I would go out 2 miles out of my kayak, and my PDF was in the storage on the front of my kayak. I would have never been able to get to it if I needed to. But again, strong swimmer, all the young guy, and luckily I survived. Nothing ever happened, but I think about that now, 15 years later, and I'm like, shit, you wouldn't catch me anywhere near outside the ocean without a vest on. You would never see me like that now.
Especially that area out where I was stationed at when I was stationed in Pendleton. That water moves, and there's some stuff that will eat you out there.
And that's the other thing. It's like you might be fishing water where the tide is ripping, and maybe you don't make it back to your kayak.
That's right. Lots of tide currents and rip tides, all that good stuff. I know what you're talking about, Rashawn. That's where I'm talking about. That's where I was at.
Yeah,
Hamilton and Miramar for almost 10 years.
So if you guys didn't know, we're Semper Fi for myself, Joe. So that's how I grew up. Came up in the Marine Corps, fishing on the West Coast for a couple of years, especially in Okinawa. And the stuff that people used to do that you see, I don't know. Everybody thought they were invincible. I guess when you come out of the Marine Corps, you think you're just like invincible. Period. But that ocean can take you away real quick, and that's not just the West Coast. That's the East Coast and anywhere else. So your prep fishing inshore. Well, I'm not even going to say the ocean. We're going to say all bodies of water because
that's right.
That can people like Steve said, people are relying on you. So you need to be mindful and make sure your prep is well when it comes to for safety wise. I'm not going to say fishing because at the end of the day, you want to be safe on the water so you can go back home to your loved ones and not have that problem. And we're all about family and stuff, especially for the Legion in the community. So just something to think about. I mean, that'll probably be a good video for us to do one day. Set something up and do some safety tips because a lot of people don't know.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
Or they either don't know or they think they don't need it.
So they don't need it.
Take it for
and like I seen some people test out. I think last year was with somebody was testing out the dry suit in the Susky just to show them what to do. I would love to do a video how to re-enter your kayak after a flip.
That would be hilarious. We can do a challenge and time each other
I'm
to
just
see
scared.
how fast we can all get back into our kayaks.
I'm just scared of where the hell what water I want to do it at. That's the problem, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be a really good video. Honestly,
Jeff Little just did a really good video recently.
That's exactly who I was going to mention. Jeff Little, the little stuff on YouTube. You can look it up.
Yeah, he went in quite detail like that guy always does, I think.
Jarrett said bring the yaks to his pool.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
That's how kind of that way you can kind of.
Hey, then I don't have to worry about what giant blue catfish is gonna grab me and take me away.
Yeah, if we do it in a controlled environment like that, we can really test the limits and have enough safety measures out there so none of us really get hurt when we're trying to get hurt. Really, was what would happen.
I mean that too. Now let's take it away from kayaks for a second. And I've been watching this for the last couple. I think throughout the summer and some of the winter. When boating safety, if you guys are fishing, you want to make sure that you have I'm not even gonna lie, a full tank of gas. Don't go out there with like a quarter tank thinking you're gonna make it back or half a tank. So that you want to make sure you have your life jacket with the kill switch. I think Tommy said that they gotta have kill switches. Even the kill switches are required on the kayaks with motors too. So what else is there I'm missing for boat? Your lights. Life jacket,
and I mean, you never really know. I hate to say it because it's kind of pain in the butt to pack with the light sometimes, but you never really know when you might need them. Because say you're out there on the water and you have a motor. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's like a big boat with a motor, a trolling motor, whatever it is. Even in a kayak, if your motor fails, odds are you're not going to be able to paddle back as quickly as you made it out there with that motor. So the time that you think you're going to get back may not be the time you get back at all. I know Rashawn that happened to him when he was fishing.
Great point. Yeah,
when he was fishing down in Virginia. I forget what the conditions were, but you go ahead and tell him about that.
Oh my God! So I was fishing with the great legend himself, Fish Stalker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know who John Hoskins is. Yeah, something wrong with y'all. And Dave Inscore. I was out there with them, and I had to come back. I was down there with my girlfriend, and she was, "Get your ass back!" And I was like, trying to get back. And I was fighting the current to get back, and it just was like, and it almost flipped because I almost flipped because I was trying to get in and trying to push myself in. Man, I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of nervous.
I mean, there was a day out where I was out on Little Blackwater, and I have my Predator PDL, but like Jared, he texted me he had like a 10 plus, like a nice big snakehead. It broke his rod, and the whole 10 yards. And so I'm like, oh, it's time to get it. I start hitting my pedal drive hard, and I broke the shear pin. And I was, and like, that was the first time it happened to me. I didn't even like consider it as a possibility. And I mean, granted, it wasn't that big of a deal because it's Little Blackwater. But had I been somewhere else, farther out, and and then I got to paddle my 13.5-foot kayak all the way back. That's going to take a while, man. It might be dark before I get back.
Yeah, your family's waiting for you.
So on that note, fellas, I think I'm going to have to go ahead and sign off of here. So it's been a pleasure, fellas. So I will catch up with y'all later.
All right, man.
Oh, yeah, take it easy, man.
All right. I think we can do a couple more minutes because I got a pack for Virginia. So Jason, I saw that Jason Murkowski said whistle. I have a whistle in my life jacket.
Yeah.
So if I get stuck where I can blow, but I also have a radio. So that's one thing I carry with me on inshore and the water in general. I have a radio where I can radio something. So just in case. That's something to have. It don't have to be super expensive, but I have a radio that floats and has a distress signal. I spent like $200 for it. So,
yeah, having a radio is almost an absolutely, especially if you're offshore, inshore type waters. a lot of times in freshwater, I can't say that you're not going to ever need it, but it's not as likely. Because what happens nowadays is we all get lazy because we all rely on our cell phones. I can talk to everybody I'm fishing with, and that's how we communicate. And we think that's going to be our way of circling back to them in emergency. That may not be the case if you're going to drink with it, or if you lose it, or if it rain or weather does something to it. And what happens with those handhelds is that usually they're water resistant or waterproof, and you can still communicate and people can find you.
So let's see. So let's try to start breaking this down a little bit before we get off. You want to make
sure. One of the things I think a lot of guys forget is first aid kits. I just buy the whatever pack that's already pre-packed. I don't even really open it up to see what's in it. I just hope that there's the good stuff that's in it. But you don't have to be like me. I think you should open it up and see what kind of stuff is in there. Maybe put stuff you think you might want in there, like more Band-Aids or iodine or whatever. But
there is a shelf life.
It is a big deal.
There is a shelf life on first aid kits, just to let y'all know.
That is.
So if you had a first aid kit in your kayak for like 5 years, you might want to check it.
Yeah, for years I built my own first aid kits because they're so expensive when you buy that pre-made kit for what's in it. It's kind of a gimmick, but they do normally or typically come with the stuff you need, and it's easier if you just want to take the cheap route, or not the cheap route, but the easy route. You're gonna pay a little bit more for it to be pre-packed, but you can build your own and put it in plastic bags or whatever. Put enough Band-Aids and iodine and alcohol pads in there. Whatever you think you may need. A lot of times for me it's treble hooks, man. Treble hooks will tear you up sometimes if you get hooked just right in the leg or in the arm, and you'd be surprised. Saltwater kind of burns when all that shit starts touching it over and over again, and it ruin your fishing day. So something to think about.
And this right here is a good point. Well, Jarrett said batteries for your trolling motor remote, or batteries in general for your flashlight if you get stuck on an island inshore.
Yeah.
But planning a plan before you get on the water for a long day, or where you're at and where you can go and whatever the radio calls are. So
yeah, safety's one of the main safety tips that you should think about. That's a great point. Is to have a plan. Tell somebody where you're going and what your plan is. That's not on the water is part of that plan. I think it should be part of that plan. That way, when they don't hear from your ass at 9:00 at night and they know you were on the water all day, they'll at least sound the alarm and say, "Hey, I haven't heard from X, Y, and Z yet." So telling somebody where you're going if you're going out solo. I would never tell anybody to go out solo, especially if you're on a small vessel like a kayak, especially inshore, offshore type stuff. Yeah, definitely have a partner with you.
Cool.
It's that buddy system, right?
Yeah, the buddy system. Yeah. So, winding down, folks, we're gonna probably give it till 8 more minutes, and we're gonna get off. We went over paddles, we went over life jacket, first aid kits, your prep, your vehicle. We went over a lot, and I appreciate all you guys staying in here. Like I said, we just did this because we were waiting for the fishing channel, and they had to reschedule. So, try to do something for this in general and give the knowledge. Hopefully, it gets better, get more people when we actually do our stuff. And I don't know what else to really say, honestly. I enjoy doing it. I plan on doing a lot of frog videos because I got over 100 something frogs of different brands that I need to start doing and showing. I know people will be asking me about doing gear stuff and other stuff. So
yeah, Rashawn, I think we can. There's plenty of information to keep sharing. I think there's always going to be, as the season continues to progress and get warmer, different lures are going to start appearing that we can talk about and share with everybody. And those guys out there, guys and gals that are having problems with catching fish as the season starts to get better, you got to let us know so we can help you out and give you some tips on how to do it. Hopefully help you catch fish. We might be in the same boat you are, not catching anything. So
yeah, so next week next weekend is the Delaware cleanup at Silver Lake. So if you're not subscribed to the Legion of Anglers, make sure you subscribe to the Legion of Anglers YouTube and Facebook group. And if you don't answer the questions, all the questions to go in the Facebook group, you're not getting in the group. I'm just gonna tell you, we want to make sure you guys understand the questions. So,
hey, speaking of that one, now I can't make that cleanup, but I know that there's talks of those that are going to want to fish after the cleanup, that there's like a boat landing issue now, or do you have to have like a permit or something?
I think they said they had to have a permit to fish that, to launch there. It's like $10 for a non-resident and $5 for a resident. So
yeah, so get on the Legion of Anglers website, or not website, but on the Facebook page, and I think Steve posted something that kind of explains all that. So we don't want you to get surprised if you show up with your kayak and you don't have a permit. Check that out.
Yeah. So that being said, everybody, we appreciate you coming out. Just like I said, this was last minute, just to get some viewers to look at stuff and get out there more. We plan on making. Hopefully, y'all enjoy these and we can get them a little better. If you want something and you want to hear something, send me a message. Send Joe a message.
Definitely.
And we will make it happen. So until next time, fish on.